Welcome to Soul Sparked Radio. I'm your host, Mr. Renew, and today we got kind of a field session. I don't know. I need to get some energies out of me, and I feel like I got a nice message delivered. Instead of saying harsh words like I got a bomb dropped on me, I'd rather say things like, I got delivered a message, my package have arrived. The information is ready to be seen from inside. So now, that's why you can see it on the outside. And there's a part of myself that I really just do not understand well enough. It's like I haven't created enough space to understand myself, and I think it's because I've been trying to create small controllable spaces. It's like I haven't just released, and it's like some kind of principality that's trying to keep me concentrated and constrained down. And maybe I don't value that enough. Maybe I don't value what's being contained enough. I don't understand the differences really just yet. So maybe this has something to do with all the energies that's returned to us. It's like maybe I'm conflicting within my internal self right now because I'm not doing enough to see the victory. But I guess I've kind of been dependent on the energies to decide and then let the energy give me the motion. But I think this is where the aspect of, even if you don't feel like doing it, you need to be disciplined and do it. And I think this is just simply making sure that the routines of both sides of the energies are being enacted, and guess what? Eventually one would win, because currently you're enacting one side of the energies, like one of the sides of the energies already that is conflicting. So when you're seeing the new energies be created, it's just being reinforced by what you're doing. So my routine has created the confliction within me, but I can...
Without the ones like you working tirelessly to keep things running, everything...
I can clearly see the difference, though. I can clearly see the differentiation of the part of me that wants to be on the positive energy side, and the part of me that just wants to be okay with doing whatever it wants to do, kind of thing. And it's like I don't know which side to go on to. So it's like I'm trying to get out of both, but there's nowhere to go. So I gotta go into both, but I don't understand that completely. I feel like I don't have enough guidance to help myself through it, but I already have the confidence to know that I do have it. I have it somewhere because I've achieved certain things, but it means a lot more than what it's meant before, but it doesn't mean much at all. So I'm trying to address that. I've been trying to address the fact that a part of me, I don't know, it's a super stubborn ass part. A super stubborn ass part of me, super potent energy, let's say, and it's just really dominant. And that motherfucker doesn't change but for a couple of things, which is the hustle culture is what I want to say. Being able to focus in and be dialed into a certain task or being useful, opposed to just being chill and peaceful and relaxed, because that person does things to relax in a way that gives an illusion of relaxing. It's like the concept of relaxation, it's the social construction of what it means to be in a relaxed state, opposed to doing the things that puts you in a relaxed state. And so the energies got so much stronger and the resistance of doing those things. But I think me being able to identify and, just get it out and talk about it is helping me see how I can actually make my way through all of this chaos. It's just the fogginess of anew. And it's about to be reborn and rebirthed, and maybe that's the struggle before something hatches. It's just so uncomfortable. It has to be birthed. I gotta get the fuck out of here. So yeah, I don't really know what else is on my mind outside of that, because I do feel a lot better. It just feels like, I'm about to explode, but it's really just me needing to expand my space. So I'm imagining being in the cocoon. There's a part of me that's been transmuted in the cocoon. It's just like about to hatch. So it's like, I don't know. Now I'm starting to get a lot of better perspectives about this energy now that's coming in. That's crazy. It's just dropping in on me right now. So here's the first one. I'm imagining like fairies and the fairies are being born through eggs, so they're hatching. And I imagine that there's a fairy being hatched and everybody's excited because like this is like the one, the golden child. That's what's about to hatch. And it's taking a long ass time for this thing to hatch, and I think it's been something that has been off schedule but is always on schedule. So like the proclaimed times in the storybook was this time frame, but actually that time frame has passed because time has been conflicted, and then all of a sudden when it's time, oh, it's hatching now. Get over here. Oh, my water broke right now. Get over here. Like that's the energy that I'm feeling right now. So seeing that, I think that's pretty cool, because that makes me feel good that things are hatching. So it's like things don't have to be perfect. And I think in my creational state, it's been like me trying to make sure things are perfect. And when I see an imperfection, and because it's something that should be changed, I just gloss over it because I'm okay with the imperfections, but those are details that I have control of. So it's like, why do I brush over the things I do have control of versus I don't? And I'm assuming that's like the baby being able to, like, I guess, function independently of mom, but like, why would I change? I got this umbilical cord, I can just eat off her. Like, I don't have to do anything. I'm just being. But you're cramped, you're stuffed, you want to get out, you need some new room. It's just, it don't feel the same. I value it, but it's just something doesn't feel the same, So because of these feelings that don't feel the same, I had the reading that I put up yesterday, that I did yesterday, but I put up this morning. Fell asleep apparently. But sorry. I put the reading up, and it was talking about like not understanding all of these different emotions that was clearly identifiable. So it's like so here's another more positive energy. Damn, that's so crazy. I'm so happy I did this because I was not about to do this. So it was great. I'm imagining like being the host of a party, my house, and then everybody coming over and me having all of these energies in my house, and then house version of me is like going crazy, oh my God, everything is everywhere, going crazy on the inside. And then outside, the part of you that was like, yeah, party, woo, that version of you is just like partying. And then there's a part of you that's thinking that it should worry about those things. And then there's a part of you that don't give a fuck because it wants to party. And so it's just like having all of these different rebuttals, all of these different claims, all of these different sides and points of views. I'm like clearly identifying them right now. And it's been strange seeing all of them. And like, it's always a tick for tat. So I think this is where they say you gotta like have faith, and trusting faith is what we were saying. And I got the trusting part, but I think my faith part is changing. There's something about the faith that's altering right now. So I don't really know again, but I have faith like that I do know. So that means I'm gonna give myself the answer in some kind of way, and I don't really know. Like I just can't pinpoint it. So because I can't pinpoint it, it's all about trying to figure out a way to accept that. It was hard for me. Again, it's still hard, but I stopped. I took that deep ass breath, and then I'm trying to be in that breath of deep. So then I continue to think of things in the back of my mind that shows me practicing a lot of things where I am breathing deeply, breathing peacefully. So even if I'm in a current state, I'm telling my brain what to do. I'm telling my brain, think of these pictures and memories whenever something like this happens. Your cue to go is always breathe. So this is like being in the classroom, and if I said, 1, 2, 3, eyes on me, and the kids respond, 1, 2, 3, eyes on you. Something like that. Like whatever cue that you have. If this was sports, coach might say, 2 claps, clap, clap, everybody get focused, tune in, listen up. Whatever cue that you have externally, I'm trying to give that to. It's making sense. We're trying to give that self to. So what we've done, the reason for the confliction is we've built a new universe of energies. So now we have this new universe of energies within us, and we have to go deeper and operate from the control center. So this is that aspect of going into the nucleolus. Going from the cell, which is its own functional self, to the nucleus, which is the function of the external world. This is you enacting yourself in your reality. But inside of you, there is a deeper control center, which is the predication of how we're even creating or replicating your DNA. How are we even given the instructions to build the life? That's the nucleolus. And so now we're zooming into there, but it's like we've been in the in-between state, the nucleoplasmic membrane. We've been in that in-between state of that center nucleus and the outer nucleus. So think of an egg. I have this egg and I have a shell, but then I have the white part of the egg, and then I have the yellow part. The yolk, different material inside the yolk than there is in the white part. The white part is pretty much just egg proteins. But guess what? The outside of a cell is mostly proteins. Guess what? Outsides of your body parts is mostly proteins. And then in this world, it's mostly proteins or building blocks, amino acids, things that are built upon one another. But what we're doing is we're looking at the foundational energies, the strings that hold it all together. But because you can see the differences, it's like looking at a soup and clearly seeing potatoes, clearly seeing tomatoes, clearly seeing carrots, clearly seeing celery, clearly seeing noodles. I can clearly see it all. Oh, guess what? It's swimming in broth. It's so many different individuals, and you can identify them. But there is a need of going deeper and concentrating it. Don't just say it's a pot of vegetables and broth. What is it? Oh, it's chicken noodle soup. Got you. So this is what we're looking for. I'm thinking of the book Chicken Noodle Soup for the Soul. So maybe this is the inspiration that person has felt when they created that piece. But what I'm saying is, I think that that is the energies that we need to be kind of maxing with today. It's really trying to like put a stamp on some shit that's new, but it's not. You know, Marie Callender's soup, Campbell's soup, Pacifico's soup, Yo Mama's soup, whatever, Amy's soup. It is trying to put a stamp on these energies that are being mixed together. That's what I'm thinking we're trying to do. It's like trying to identify a deeper part of self without understanding that self. So because we don't understand that self as well, we're trying to learn how to leave it space. But with the more space we leave it, the more like difficult it becomes to name it. So you try to grab hold of more, and then like it kicks the can down the road, and you just constantly stumbling. It is reminding me of like trying to pull people along with you. So it's like we got to figure out a way to drop that concept of needing to name that space in order to have that space, but figuring out a way to work with that space externally. But the external use is just a practice on the internal side, so then you can see the application of it on your reality's external side. So it's us trying to acquire a new means of applying a function of a DNA strand in a new way. It's so deeply ingrained within us. It's something that you do have, but you don't know how to have it. We don't know what it fully is, so I guess we should explore it, but you're kind of afraid of it. But you see clearly it's useful, it's helpful, it's beneficial, but it's foreign. Something about this is like it keeps you in an analytical state, questioning, observing, paying attention, locked on, locked in. I don't really know much else to say in regards to those mixtures, so I guess temperance would be the last thing I could say, because whenever we have differences, we always want to temper them. And that's why I keep saying about the holding space thing. So now I'm getting a new spatial way means of operation. So here's a new value metric, which is what they establish as a wormhole. So what that means is wormholes should be applied as if they're measurements. So the distal space between this wormhole and this wormhole could be like the same comparison of an inch to a foot. So if we treated the wormholes as, units of measurements, then we can utilize the supernova and the energy radiance relative to those wormholes as access points, meaning the explosion has a radiance that will have an illuminance of one side of the wormhole versus another. And because those two radiant points, no matter where they are, operate at the same exact value system, then we can look at the frequency of the distance between each of those points as what we call light space. This light space in and of itself is just the distance that one would project on its need for travel, but the need for travel is going to be dark, so we have to create a light tunnel through the space, which is above or below, or some kind of orthogonal 90-degree angle at a curve. So this tells us that when we're anticipating new information coming into us, external things in our reality, when we have these factors that are coming in from any which way, expect the unexpected kind of vibe. If you're capable of expecting the unexpected when it arises, this shows you that you are operating upon these inherent nodal points of operation. Again, your body reacted, and it means where you was unconscious of it, but you was unconscious of your consciousness upon it, meaning you didn't even know this movement existed in your reality, and then your body had a know-how of doing it, and so it's hitting you in your subconscious and in your conscious, but you're conscious of it happening both, because the time that it took, it arrived at the same time, but is processed differently. This is like light arriving in a space a certain time, but the light being stretched out across a prism, and different realities are materializing at different times. Just like on a rocket ship, the beginning of the blast off versus the end of the blast off, at different points in time, there's going to be different parts of the rocket ship, meaning it's going to be different stages of the physical matter as it's ascending. But we can call it descending and say it's falling into the space. In this way, it will be falling into a space where you can't control, but you can operate. This is like looking at a garbage disposal. This is like applying the prism in and of itself, but choosing this shape versus this shape of the same materialized prism. Us being able to refocus and refilter is allowing us to dictate the changes of the energies that we see that are being tempered in space, but because there is no actual connection between them, it's all theoretical. What we're anticipating is the realities of what has already descended and across this time space that one can understand. In other words, I can't teach a fucking a 4-year-old quantum mechanics, if they don't even understand algebra, but I could if they could. It's understanding a null space. And so when you occupy things as a null, then you create a means of connection or a bridge, the wormhole in and of itself. You got to realize what means of bridging are you applying. And this is, are you measuring things in centimeters, millimeters, inches, kilometers, miles? What are you measuring in? Grams, volumes, milliliters? What are you measuring in? So when we have that understanding of which connection that we're applying, this is not the quantum entanglement yet, but that is the supernovas being quantumly entangled across any space. We're using those as nodal points of connection. So having an anticipatory aspect through a geometric sequence that will allow us to see, again, parts outside of us that could have a potential threat to what is happening. We're trying to do the same thing on an energetic level. This is like being in a crowd and weaving in and out the crowd. This is chaos theory, which is why, again, it's simple. It's not as complicated as it seems. I mean, if you go play a video game, you got a lot of options to choose your clothes and characters, like on Sims and making memes and avatars. Those things is the same thing. There's a lot of parts that you don't choose. That is what we're talking about in these potentialities of space, and the wormhole connection that we're relating to is this outside stimuli, aka the supernova, that would get people going to that same spot. This is that attractive force, but inside of you, this is seen as just movement or emotions. Sometimes we can feel those emotions, and then when we feel those emotions, we sometimes are familiar with it or not. I can do many things in life and not know what I do. And it takes a person who wants to look at the same thing from a new point of view. And when I take that new point of view, now instead of looking at running the 100-yard dash, I want to time it. I want to see the measurements. I want to break it down. I want to look at the physics. I want to look at step by step, frame by frame. I want to understand different parts of how you're building up what we call the time of your record-setting run. I want to see more. I want to get further on my details. Just like I provided an extreme amount of details on something that people will be like, this motherfucker is crazy. But what I'm just talking about is how do things at distances connect? That's it. And there's terms that we use in space that are applicable on this internal space, this present space. But presently, what we have been identifying is there's been an identity of a multitude. So the only way when things come together that are different in space is in situations like a sun, situations like a planet, a moon, where things of opposite come together upon a single core, and that core is not the outside. Every core of a planet does not look like the outside of a planet. Every core of a person doesn't look like the outside of a person. You know, this is why they say looks on everything. A core, people can be rotten to the core, people say, right? Right? So they can look beautiful on the outside and be rotten on the inside. Nasty. So it's really always trying to see how the things on the inside doesn't look like the outside, but we know it to be the same. We just know it to have different layers. And because things are layered in us, we have to see that things are layered outside of us too, but we are connecting with things internal and external, the micro internals and the macro internals. The macros is what we've been exploring as all of these different energies, these macro versions of the ingredients for my chicken noodle soup. And but then we can have the micro understanding, which is like the vitamins and the minerals of said vegetables that we put in that soup. So we got two ways to look at that one thing, two ways to see it, but then there's an external thing to it too. In that soup, because it's soup, we still got to now reclassify what soup is. And now it's a vegetable soup versus like a clam chowder. The idea is in this soup, it's what? Vegetables. That's not the only thing in there, but it's predominantly vegetables.
School International is a
Dang, that scared me. So, as we bring this down towards the end, it's really cool to see how we can utilize means of words, but words change when you have different understandings. So if I can apply some terms like for describing space and large distances, if I can apply that to people, because people tend to be strangers is what we say, far separate from each other, but even in close relationships there can be distance is what we say. Those things are happening at core levels, and it takes a long time to get inside the deepest you, the nucleolus. And this is what we're trying to get into. This is what we're trying to dive into. This is what we've been feeling all of December pretty much. How do we become more authentic within ourselves at a core deeper level? And it's funny because you're already there, and that's the hardest part. So it's really the journey of seeing not what needs to go, it's how it needs to go. It's not that I need to get into this crowded mall and go to Zoomies or JC Penney's, whatever. It's a means of how am I going to get there through all of these people, through all of these flights, through all of these stairs, through all of these elevators. How am I going to do it? Where's the route? This essentially when electrons jump from orbital to orbital. Electrons is what creates the reality that we interact with. And so because that's a part of an internal thing, and together they stabilize things in reality. Like this microphone is this microphone because the protons in there are being in protons, and the electrons in there are exchanging, but they're exchanging in a way that keeps this shape, keeps this entire thing going. It's holding itself together upon some other kind of attractive force, but the attractive force in and of itself is the identification. The identification of force and force. We just see it as a force. I don't give a fuck. These are the ingredients to chicken noodle soup. What are you talking about? The baby carrots versus the succulent carrots. Huh? Nigga, carrots. But People operate like that. Some people think like that. And that's the thing. That's what I'm trying to say. Because that is a very small, minuscule function of like identification, it has to be seen externally in the real world at a bigger level. So just the same with us, we know there's planets that have life on there because there's a planet that has life on here. But because we can't identify it, because we can't see it, we there's a part of us that rationalizes the situation and says, well, if we can't see it, I can't believe it. But when we understand what we're actually trying to say, what we're talking about is we don't have the means to see that life in time. Because again, when we're looking at the rules of distance, I might see something and it might not look it. I might see nothing and it might be a ton of shit. Because things polarize when you get further away, you have to understand that's the same thing with people. The more distance you have between people, the more polarizing these people can become to one another. They can just become the enemy in that simple explanation because there's so much distance. There's no relatability. But this is the idea of jumping orbitals, because when you have an external change, we can change energy states. This is like our mood. But how do you do that on an external view? Well, there has to be things externally that actually come together to make things relate. And this is the idea of that supernova. The supernova is going to explode at the same rate. So to me, this is like all kids are going to go to school at the same rate. But sometimes you got kids who are smarter, so they might move a little bit quicker. So there's a supernova called an ultranova because it's moving a little bit faster, so it gets a little bit more expansive, moves a little bit faster. All of those things come together, but it's seen through these standardized zones of proximity. But even if the zone of proximity is super distal, that doesn't change the application. This is the idea of having like laws of nature. Doesn't matter where you are, they still be applied. But what I'm trying to show is the application of what is being applied for distance can be seen with just people on a more close basis, because we're not relating the physical body, we're relating the energies behind that operation. But what I'm discussing with you today is the separation. So imagine the body to be the universe, and then all the way down inside was the nucleus, right? The nucleus would be like your mind. But then further inside your mind, you got the nucleolus, which is like how you feel. And this is how a lot of people operate, based upon their feelings. Even if they say they're being logical, no. These are indirect senses that make the body create a perspective. And in that perspective, you yield perceptions. And that is threat or not, and understanding or not, processing or not. And so it does all yield from some kind of emotional basis, even if you disagree. Emotionless is still an emotional basis, because the foundation is with or without. Kool-Aid-less is the foundation of Kool-Aid. You're with Kool-Aid or without Kool-Aid. It's simple. I use Kool-Aid because a lot of people understand that, whether you drink it or not, whether you eat it with pickles or not, or whether you heard about it, whether you got kids who want that shit, whatever. People understand that. But that's what I'm saying. People get it. People get everything that I've said today. I'm using words to justify what I'm saying, to help people justify it for themselves, because it's out here already. But in classes, if I was your teacher, we would be learning it this way. So I try to be your teacher. So whenever you come here and I'm trying to teach you something, like right now, I was trying to teach myself what it means to understand these feelings that I had. And guess what? These feelings that I had is helping me teach you, because I took the time to understand them and I processed them, and then I realized that I already understood. It is me just realizing that I need to continue to be disciplined in teaching you. So the things that I already know that are showing up as reminders to jump on the mic and talk, these are things that are helping me to help you walk the walk that I want to talk. So it's my body has been trained to keep myself soulfully inspired. Just like when I tell you, you should train your brain to think of like associated thoughts and sensations whenever you're trying to do something. This is the idea of me using synonyms in the classroom as well as antonyms in the classroom. I'm saying both things, but we have a reference point called this term, and this is me and this is spelling. This is how I would teach spelling to fourth graders. And I would say it in different ways. I would say similar terms, synonyms, and I would say opposite terms. I would say it in a sentence, and then I will apply it in just regular conversation. So I showed lots of different ways to see this one word because I understood they were circulating around a single point. They were circulating around a single point. These are our consciousness, but the mystery word, that blank or that hole or that black hole, that space that was unidentified, it actually is. But we're seeing how far or how long we can take it. So this is the idea of entering a wormhole and exiting. I'm not saying a black hole is a point of entrance. I'm saying it's another point of connection. So just like in the mind, if I could connect, if I said not hot, what would you say? You might think cold. But then if I said, but it's not a description of a temperature. Huh? Oh, it might be a state. You gotta. My kids had to understand that they had to be able to flip the words around and see all around them, especially when I put them into context with the sentence. Dang, I walked outside and my toes were frozen. Oh, so this is why it's not cold. This is why it's not a thing. I am a state. My toes aren't actually frozen. They just feel like this analogy of something when we look at it as frozen. Meaning it's not moving, meaning it's cold, meaning we probably think it's stuck. So like, what do you associate now with? Oh, his toes are stuck. So this is the idea of being able to utilize information that we don't have. Knowing that we don't have information is how we utilize this information. We're seeing this move forward within ourselves because we can't know everything. And we are trying to figure it out. We're giving ourselves clues, but nothing is put it into context for us. So we have to understand we can go through that to the other side. There's always another side. And what I'm saying is, if I said, if it's not melted, it's frozen, then you would probably put the not hot but cold, not melted but frozen together. But that's a layer of the same thing. That's not a change as something else. You got to see both. And this is the idea of why we are seeing both of these energies, seeing the chicken noodle soup and then seeing the ingredients of the chicken noodle soup, seeing the strings of the universe and then seeing the particles that those strings create. But then we still got to take a step back and see the harmony between the strings and the particles being created. We got to see the fluctuations in between these notes. We got to see the musical scales and tempos and cadence and spaces change. It's all full. But do we have the means to see the details? I don't know if we do or not, but with that being said, I'm give you something to ponder. So I appreciate y'all. I feel a lot better. So thank y'all for being here with me. And with that being said, I'm Mr. Anu. This is Mr. Anu Yaps, and we're yapping on Soul Spark Radio today. So, all right, see you next time. Peace.